this is an iHeart podcast.
Know what's underrated? Winning at the checkout line. With the Verizon Visa Card, you win by getting 4% in rewards on things you buy all the time, including grocery store purchases, gas, and dining out. As a cardholder, you can even use those earned rewards toward your Verizon bill or a new smartwatch. Apply now at Verizon.com/Verizon Visa Card. Application required. Subject to credit approval. Must be a Verizon mobile account owner or manager or Fios account owner. See Verizon.com/Verizon Visa Card for terms and restrictions. The Verizon Visa Signature Card is issued by Synchrony Bank pursuant to a license from Visa USA Inc.
I'm Rodney Williams.
And I'm Travis Holloway. Welcome to the Wealth Break Podcast, a real conversation about finance.
Let's be honest. Building wealth doesn't look the same for everyone.
I feel like sometimes being broke is a cycle and that we might have to revisit that.
And we're not stopping at success stories.
What happens when it doesn't go right? How do you cope with it?
Because wealth isn't just about money. It's about creating a life where you thrive and help others do the same.
Listen to the Wealth Break Podcast on the iHeartRadio app.
If you're with Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, you're overpaying for wireless, period. You're paying a massive premium for what you think is superior 5G service. Pure Talk, my wireless company, uses the same 5G network on the same 5G towers, but they don't charge you for any of the garbage.
Get unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Visit puretalk.com/Clay, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Switch to Pure Talk today.
The administration is making bold moves to right this country. That said, they don't have the ability to take your personal financial situation into consideration. That's on you. Diversify now with Birch Gold Group and Gold. Birch Gold makes owning physical gold extremely easy. Convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy some to store in your home safe. It starts with texting my name, Buck, to the number 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit on gold. Text Buck to 989898 and protect your savings with gold.
I'm Christiana Manpour, and I've been on the front lines and interviewing world leaders for more than 30 years.
And I'm Jamie Rubin, a former advisor to both Presidents Clinton and Biden.
We were married for 20 years.
And divorced for 7.
Now we've joined forces on The X-Files to make sense of how we ended up with no world order. Listen to Christiana Manpour Presents The X-Files on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome, everybody. Tuesday edition of the Clay, Travis, and Buck Sexton Show kicks off right now. Thanks for being with us from all across this great land. Right as we're speaking to you, of course, we are live. President Trump is holding a cabinet meeting. We were watching it right until the moment we had to come on the air. We are monitoring for the most important moments, so we'll bring you those. He's continuing to talk about a range of subjects. Obviously, the president addressing the terrible floods in the hill country of Texas. Also discussing matters having to do with the economy and the border. Specifically on the economy, that we've already seen $100 billion come in of revenue to the Treasury as a result of the Trump tariffs. The tariffs that we were told would raise the price on everything, which does not seem to have happened at all. And Scott Bessent, his Treasury Secretary, went on to say it is expected soon that there will be more like $300 billion that will come in to the Treasury as a result of the Trump tariffs. $300 billion is a lot of money, even for this federal government. That's, $100 billion here, $100 billion there. This is real money. So I think it's interesting to see how the evolution of the conversation around tariffs is moving so rapidly to not only are tariffs failing to do the price gouging, price increases that we were told, but actually bringing money into the Treasury Department. So I think that's particularly interesting. We've also got some fantastic guests today, just to give you a heads up about that. The Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, will be with us. Let's talk about MEGA, Make Energy Great Again. How about that? We're going to talk about energy and how this administration is all systems go on tapping into the incredible resources that this nation has, more so than ever, and getting rid of the red tape and getting rid of the nonsense and getting rid of the green new scam nonsense. So we'll discuss that with him. We've also got Selena Zito author and journalist. She'll be with us. She's got a new book out talking about the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. We'll discuss with her what her research found. But, Clay, I wanted to start with this. Some very interesting things going on in the immigration realm. First of all, you've got Mayor Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, very upset and telling members of immigration and customs enforcement that they need to stop what they're doing. And by that, she means stop enforcing the law. They had an operation where they were going through a park in Los Angeles, and they were picking up illegals. The details of this, I'm still reading up on, specifically how many people they took into custody, but they had this operation where they were going to get illegals, and the mayor of Los Angeles shows up and says that this needs to stop. This is her. This is at MacArthur Park as federal agents are raiding the area. This is cut 4. Listen to this.
Any comment, Mayor Bass? Thank you. Mayor Bass, any comment?
Yes, my comment is they need to leave, and they need to leave right now. They need to leave because this is unacceptable.
No, actually, Clay, they don't need to leave. They're enforcing the law. They're federal agents. She has no authority to stop them, to order them, to do anything to them. And if she tries, she's breaking federal law, which Los Angeles is still a part of the United States and therefore falls under federal jurisdiction. And there's just none of this nonsense that we should be accepting. I want to get into also some of the way the rhetoric that's out there is creating dangers. I saw those 2 ambush attempts. One time, ICE member shot in the neck. We'll talk about that in a second. Clay, they really think that the law doesn't count somehow in these sanctuary cities, that there's some argument to be made that federal law has no real bearing on what's going on just because they say so. This is a very important moment in the rule of law for this country.
Yeah, and again, it goes to the very basics of the supremacy clause, which is why I don't really even understand what the attempt is here. The United States president controls immigration law. And so we had this discussion because Gavin Newsom, remember when he was making a big show of, hey, the president doesn't have the ability to call out the guard here in the state of California. And there was one federal district court judge that agreed, and then it immediately got slapped down by the Ninth Circuit. And we came on and said this is kind of a foundational issue. It is a foundational issue that the president of the United States has control over immigration law across the entirety of the country, whether it's a blue state or a blue city or not. And a part of me thinks, and tell me if, because I'm trying to think of this strategically, the only way this makes sense is if you just are desperate to be arrested by the president of the United States, because that helps you politically when it comes to your standing in the Democrat Party. This in no way actually benefits the city. It certainly doesn't benefit the state. Look, have you ever seen a study on this? Because I would love to see a study on this. Mamdani got elected in New York City, and I see these as all connected, or got the nomination for the Democrat Party in New York City for the mayorship by basically arguing rent is too expensive. We need to freeze rent. And really, he argued products are too expensive. Life is too expensive in New York City. You lived in New York City for a while. I don't know what the numbers would reflect. J.D. Vance made this argument a bit on the debate against Tim Walz, and then it got shot down. Didn't get much attention beyond that. What would it do to rent if there were no illegal immigrants in New York City?
Well, I believe that the laws of supply and demand still matter, even when Democrats wish they wouldn't. So, yes, there would be more housing that would open up. This is true in New York City. This is true nationwide. The same way that they say, who's going to work in the meat plant once the illegals have been removed from it? Americans. That's actually what happens.
That's how supply and demand works.
Yeah, this has been fascinating because the rhetorical question that they think they're asking actually has an answer. Who's going to take these jobs? Americans who get paid on the books and a real wage.
So I would love the fact that we've never really seen a study, and maybe some of you have. if we have, according to Tom Homan, 20 million illegals in the United States, that's what he told me a couple of months ago he thought was the actual number. Now, some of you are going to say, hey, I think it's 30 or I think it's 40 or whatever the number is. Tom Homan said 20, so I'm going to use 20 as a rough approximation. Those numbers are overwhelmingly slotted in cities like New York, Chicago, and L.A. What would rents do if you just eliminated illegal immigrants from the rental universe? To your point, natural laws of supply and demand would suggest they would come down substantially.
It's even worse than that. Unfortunately, the city of New York has some of the most oppressive and anti-property owner laws in the entire country. And there's also rent control, which is just a government mandated spoil system that people abuse. And I'm sorry if some of you live in rent controlled apartments, good for you, but you're actually kind of milking the system. That's just the truth. My girlfriend when I was in high school, she lived in a rent controlled apartment. And when her parents told me what she was paying, I remember I was like, wow, they're paying like a couple $100 a month for a huge apartment. I was like, that's weird. So look, it's a spoils system and it artificially raises the cost of housing the same way that illegal immigration raises the cost of housing. Here's another one, Clay. They estimate, and they have pretty good numbers on this because they have to bill people. 30% of emergency room visits in New York City last year were illegal immigrants. 30. Yeah. So if 30% of the ER visits are illegals, now I know you say, oh, but they don't have access to frontline care. That's why they're going. Yeah, but what would happen if you didn't have those illegals? You'd have a whole lot more ER capacity, wouldn't you? You'd have much shorter ER waits, wouldn't you? The same concepts, the same ideas apply to housing, apply to employment, apply because supply and demand is a real thing.
Which is why I think Republicans should start making that argument. Because there are a lot of people out there who feel like goods cost way more than they used to. And that's the function of inflation. Inflation comes down. It doesn't ever go away. It's like putting on weight. You eventually have to, you don't ever get typically negative cost of goods. So you're trying to get around 2% a year. It's still going to add up. I saw our friend Jesse Kelly shared something that since COVID, $100,000 today, $100,000 in 2020, you need $125K today to have the same purchasing power. Basically, everything costs about 25% more than it did in 2020, which is a function of inflation because we judge inflation on a year-to-year basis, not on a multi-year basis. So that 9% inflation got perpetually embedded. And so really goods have increased in value by about, the cost of them has increased by about 25% just over the last 5 years.
And you look at what happens when the government starts playing this game of influencing the numbers in the market, whether it's for housing or employment, playing these games by allowing illegal immigrants to get, work papers and all these things. It has tremendous cost. Obamacare, this has been largely forgotten, was supposed to bring down the cost of health care, everybody. Do you remember that? Does anybody remember? That was the big promise. Yeah, you're all going to be covered, quote unquote, but it's going to bring down the cost of health care. It didn't do that. Healthcare is actually just getting more expensive all the time. It's super heavily regulated and it is more expensive. Kind of like housing stock in Los Angeles. Very hard to build new homes in LA, new apartment buildings, a million different environmental and union and local regulations. Same thing is true in New York City. These places are infringing on the market and causing huge problems. So yes, with the illegals, despite what Mayor Bass says, they're called illegals once again for a reason, because they're breaking the law. And I think Tom Homan really got to this when he said that they're arresting non-criminals. He's like, they're not allowed to be here. The whole point is that this is cut 10. He's like, we're arresting the people who are not supposed to be in the United States. That is the fundamental problem.
Yeah, and that is
cut 10.
If you're in the country legally, you're not off the table. I mean, I see people, saying we're arresting non-criminals. Well, they're in the country legally. That's our job. And we told ICE agents in the process going out looking for the bad guy. And this is the problem with sanctuary cities. When we go to the community to go find the criminal, many times they're with others that may not be a criminal target, but they're in the United States illegally. They're coming too. We're going to force immigration law. Unlike the last administration where Secretary Mayorkas instructed ICE, you can't arrest an illegal alien for simply being here illegally. They got to be arrested or be convicted of a serious criminal offense. He rewrote the law. That's not what the law says. We're going to force law. That's what the people put President Trump in office to do, and that's what we're doing.
Enforce the law. And we have shut down the border. But again, if you take Tom Homan at his word and there's 20 million illegals here, even at 3,000 deportations a day, it would take decades to get that 20 million out of the country. That's the reality. That's why Tom Homan just said, hey, we need to bump those numbers up to 7,000 a day. We'll talk more about this, but I do think the only thing that makes sense for Karen Bass is she's hoping to get arrested. Gavin Newsom's hoping to get arrested. He actually called out for it because they see it as ultimately beneficial in the Democrat Party, even if it's actually detrimental to their city and state, which is a sad place to be. Look, peace in Israel's fragile. Israel's military acted on Sunday against the Houthi rebels after they attacked a ship with materials meant for Israel. Every time Israeli citizens think the threats have been neutralized, the rebels show aggression again. Israelis are still recovering from the missile bombings from Iran that affected thousands of innocent civilians. Your gift to the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews will help provide wide-scale food distribution along with critical first aid and emergency supplies. These items will help Israel's most vulnerable, the sick, the elderly, children, and families. The IFCJ is there in Israel working tirelessly with your donations. Your gift today will also help place new bomb shelters across Israel along with necessary supplies for existing bomb shelters. Now's the time to save and heal Israel's innocent and most vulnerable. To rush your gift, call 888-488-IFCJ. That's 888-488-IFCJ. You can also go online at ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org.
Saving America, one thought at a time. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? WashableSofas.com has your back. Featuring the Anabay Collection, the only designer sofa that's machine washable inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabrics. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Check out WashableSofas.com and get up to 60% off your Anabay sofa, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. Navy Federal can help you find and finance the right vehicle with ease. And this summer, you're in the driver's seat with savings. You can get a $250 bonus when you buy your next car through Navy Federal's car buying service, powered by TrueCar and financed with Navy Federal. With this tool, you can find the vehicle that's right for you as you search through inventory and compare models. And you could get an amazing rate when you finance with Navy Federal. Navy Federal strives to support all active duty, veterans, and their families to achieve their personal and financial goals. And this partnership with TrueCar is one of the many tools Navy Federal uses to help its members. Make your plan with Navy Federal and TrueCar today. Navy Federal Credit Union. To qualify for the $250 bonus, car purchase and financing must be completed by September 2nd, 2025. Terms and conditions apply and are available at NavyFederal.org/TrueCar. Credit and collateral subject to approval. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA.
Stay connected with your parents anytime, anywhere. When you need to reach your parents, rely on Rapid Radio's walkie-talkies. Rapid Radios make it simple to stay in touch with aging parents at the push of a button.
Just take them out of the box, press a button, start talking. Instant communication anywhere, anytime. With nationwide LTE coverage, these walkie-talkies are 100% private, no contracts, no monthly fees, just pure, reliable connection.
Your parents can stay in touch whether they're at home or traveling, giving you peace of mind knowing they're always reachable. Ready to use right out of the box, Rapid Radios offers modern convenience with the ease of a classic walkie-talkie. For a limited time, visit rapidradios.com to save up to 60%. Plus, get free UPS shipping from Michigan. Use code RADIO for an extra 5% off. Don't wait. Order today at rapidradios.com. Satisfaction guaranteed or 100% of your money back. Go to rapidradios.com, code RADIO, and get an extra 5% off.
The last thing anyone wants is to leave behind confusion, stress, or worse, family conflict. That's why estate planning isn't just for the wealthy. It's for families like mine, and probably like yours. With Trust and Will, I created my estate plan in minutes, from naming guardians for my kids to putting our house in a trust to avoid probate. Fast, affordable, and way easier than I thought. Every plan is designed by estate planning attorneys and customized for your state. Plans start at just $199 and include essentials like healthcare directives and power of attorney. With Trust and Will's bank-level security and built-in privacy protections, your personal information and your wishes stay safe. Whether you're newly married, raising kids, caring for aging parents, or just want peace of mind, Trust and Will makes it easy to protect what matters most. Go to trustandwill.com, use code RADIO at checkout, and save 20% on your personalized plan. Because there's no better time to protect the people you love. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Know what's underrated? Winning at the checkout line. With the Verizon Visa card, you win by getting 4% in rewards on things you buy all the time, including grocery store purchases, gas, and dining out. As a cardholder, you can even use those earned rewards toward your Verizon bill or a new smartwatch. Apply now at Verizon.com/Verizon Visa card. Application required. Subject to credit approval. Must be a Verizon mobile account owner or manager or Fios account owner. See Verizon.com/Verizon Visa card for terms and restrictions. The Verizon Visa Signature Card is issued by Synchrony Bank pursuant to a license from Visa USA Inc.
Welcome back into Clay and Buck. We are joined by our friend Selena Zito. Book comes out today. I've got a copy because, I know some people. Butler, the untold story of the near assassination of Donald Trump and the fight for America's heartland. Selena, you do great reporting. You're an excellent writer. You were right there that day in Butler as those shots rang out. Tell us, what was it like? What happened?
Yeah. So, when you're in reporting, your day starts out a certain way, like you're going to do this, this, and this. And 9 times out of 10, that's not what happens. And so at that day, I was supposed to interview President Trump for 5 minutes before the rally. That changed about 2 hours after I'm in at Butler, and it's going to be 5 minutes after the rally. And then they say, well, you want to fly to Bedminster with the president and do the interview on the plane. I'm like, well, I never get an invite like that. I'm in. And then 5 minutes before he's supposed to go on stage, they come rushing back and say it's go time. And I just assumed that they changed their mind and I was going to do it before the rally. So I raced through it along with my daughter, who's a photojournalist. She did the cover of the book and raced through the crowd. We get to the behind the stage, and I asked the young man, where are we doing this interview? And the president's around the bend. He comes back and he says, not doing the interview right now. You're still going to Bedminster. He just wanted to say hi to you. And so that moment of him just wanting to say hi, he asked about my grandchildren. I've interviewed President Trump dozens of times. And at that moment, I'm then now stuck because I can't get back to the press riser. And I'm supposed to leave with him to go to Bedminster along with my daughter. So they put me in the buffer area. The buffer is sort of this well that goes around the stage. And they said, just follow him out and then get over on the other side towards the end. You can just jump in the motorcade. That's why I ended up being just 4 feet away from the president when he was shot. Was right, if you can see me in a lot of the photos, just to that would have been his left.
Selena, I've got the book in front of me right now, and I read the opening chapter already. It's fabulously well done, and I'm actually looking forward to reading it. And we get a lot of books, and I'm not able to read all of them. But we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary. Do you find it as hard as I do, as I think Buck does, and as I imagine the vast majority of people out there listening do, that we still know almost nothing about this guy who got onto the roof with that gun? Not much about his background, not much about his motivation on that day, not even that much about how he came to come as close as he did to killing the president of the United States, which by the grace of God he did not achieve. But we're in a completely different universe if that bullet is 1/4 inch closer to the president. What do you think now, having been there, having witnessed it? Does it still seem improbable that all of this happened?
It does seem improbable that all of this happened. And you'll find out in the book, the president calls me the first thing the next morning. And he, President Trump, he's a little hilarious if you haven't picked up on that. The first thing he says is, "Hey, this is President Trump." Like, I don't know that, right? And then he goes, I want to make sure you are okay, your daughter's okay, and I'm so sorry that we didn't get to do that interview. And that's this moment with him, right? That you really understand, like this is not the person you always think he is. And we go on that day, and it's detailed in the book. We go on that day because he calls me 7 times. And he really talks about the improbability that he didn't die. And he questions about purpose and about God, not in a fanatical, religious way, but in a way that is very thoughtful. And why didn't I die? Do I have this new purpose? And I think he answers that question every day, whether you agree or not with everything that he does. He answers that question every day since he was sworn in January. But he does have purpose. This is not the presidency of a man going into his second term. This is not a lame duck presidency. He is approaching this as someone who was spared by God, and he says that many times to me, but also as someone that has a purpose, and he is meant to fulfill it. And he's going to go head down straight into it, because you never know what's going to happen to you.
I think that what you just said is so important, and I think people are picking up on it now. I think even Democrats are. The biggest difference between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0 is the quality of the people he surrounded himself with, yes. But also, Trump is making decisions that he thinks are generationally in the interest of the country, and he's not concerned at all with anyone who might disagree with him. And I think that's partly because he feels spared based on what happened that day in Butler.
Yes. So I have an interview coming out with him this week on Friday in the Washington Post, and he talks about that in a very meaningful and profound way. Part of who he surrounds himself also has to do with Butler. Like, Butler changed everything. It didn't just change the American electorate. It didn't just change our coalitions and galvanize people. And people will read that detail as I continue to cover the election in a way that none of you have saw, because the reporters were writing something completely different than what I was reporting in that moment. But everything changed in that moment. And I think this nugget's important, because it goes to understanding Trump in a way that people don't understand. And it goes to understanding why he's going to do what he's going to do, because God saved him. And that is the moment that he says, fight, fight, fight. And I asked him about it the next day, and I asked him again about it 2 weeks ago. He said, and I just wanted to revisit it with him, and he had the same exact answer, because I didn't know if he would remember that or not, right? That was a pretty crazy day the next day. He said, I was not Donald Trump in that moment. I had an obligation to be someone who shows resolve and be a symbol of the country, be a symbol of grit and exceptionalism, and we will go undefeated. And that is what America has always meant to me. And I had an obligation as a former president, and possibly the next president, to show that. Because, you know, part of who he surrounds himself also has to do with Butler. Like, Butler changed everything. It didn't just change the American electorate. It didn't just change our coalitions and galvanize people. And people will read that detail as I continue to cover the election in a way that none of you have saw, because in a lot of ways because I didn't want people to panic there. And they didn't, by the way. But also I didn't want people watching panicking out in the streets. I had an obligation to be presidential, not to be Donald Trump, to represent the office in the country with resolve.
Selena, honestly, wasn't that just the most amazing thing you've ever seen a president do? Amazing even for President Trump, who's done a lot of incredible stuff. Clay and I still sit there and think, I can't, it's hard to believe, even when you watch the video, even when we saw it the first time as it was happening, that a president took a bullet through the ear, was bleeding on stage, and turned to his people and raised a fist and told them to fight.
Yeah. Yeah, it was that process that went through his head, that understanding that it was more, he wasn't him, he was a man there. He was a president. He was America in that moment, right? You know, that symbol of our country when you think about the American eagle, right? Perseverance and strength and grit. He knew that people needed to know that he was fighting, that the country was fighting, and that something as dark as demonic as what Thomas Matthew Crooks attempted to do and would have caused immense chaos and unrest in this country was not succeeded, and he wanted to show that America is resilient. I don't know, and I remember him telling me that, and my reaction was, "Oh, wow, that's deep," because it was to think on your feet like that after you've been shot. I mean, most people would be in the fetal position, right? And I'm watching him. See, remember, I'm only 4 feet away. And I'm watching him, like, struggle with his Secret Service because he wants his shoes on. And, damn it, he's going to get his shoes on. He is not walking off of that stage in his stocking feet across gravel. He is going to be the United States.
Were you able to go to sleep? I'm just kind of curious, when something like that happens, were you able to immediately contextualize the historic moment of what had occurred and the fact that I think for hundreds of years, people are going to be watching that video, and it's going to become even more iconic after the passions of the moment start to fade because Democrats have whatever they think about Trump. But I think 50, 100 years from now, long after anyone who is listening to us today is not here, that moment is going to become so indelible and so iconic in American life. Did you understand that or feel that immediately? And second part, were you able to sleep that night? I'm just kind of curious, when you have that experience, how long it takes you to come down off the adrenaline rush just based on where you were, to say nothing of him.
I've still not come down from it. And, you know, I knew exactly, you know, as a journalist, you know, part of your job, even if it's a tiny thread, you're always covering history every day.
Yep.
But I knew in that moment, you know, and he talks about purpose, but I also talk about purpose. There is a reason I was there, right? And there was a reason I was supposed to chronicle this. And I knew that was what my purpose was. And to be able to tell this story and because I have a gift of total recall, right? I can remember every smell, like I think in color, right? Like I can smell and taste and feel everything in that moment. And when people say, when they've been in a tragic situation, the time slows down, that was very true for me. And I watched the entire thing in these very fine layers. And because I have the gift of recall, and plus I have my recorder on, and I record everything that happens. I can hear everything the president says, but I also am talking to my recorder so I don't forget anything. And I probably started the book. I didn't even think about a book. I just thought, well, I need to write this story, and I did. But, you know, people came to me and it's like, you have an obligation to write this book. And so I immediately started writing it. But as I'm writing it, I'm still continuing to cover an extraordinarily historic election that I believe, as I'm watching it, that other people aren't covering what's happening. They're covering what they wish was happening. They're covering what they hope happens. But I'm on the ground there in Pennsylvania, in the middle of somewhere, Pennsylvania, and I'm covering this and seeing this entire country change, not just in the rural areas, but in the suburbs. I'm watching these young mothers who have never put a Trump hat on, in the next weekend have them on at their kids' soccer games because, and there's interviews in the book. They said, hey, he can take a bullet for me. I can wear a damn hat and not worry about what people say to me. Everything changed in that moment.
Butler, the untold story of the near assassination of Donald Trump and the fight for America's heartland. Selena Zito's book out today. Selena's great. We really love her work. Get yourself a copy. Selena, thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, you guys. Have a great day.
You know, as parents, we'll protect our children at any cost, especially in our own home. And to do that right, you need to have the right tools. That's where Sabre comes in. They're the #1 pepper spray brand trusted by law enforcement. Sabre is spelled S-A-B-R-E, and the website is sabreradio.com. Sabreradio.com. Clay and I both have their products in our homes. I've actually given a bunch of their products to family members as well so they can protect themselves all over the country. Pepper spray projectile launcher in particular is a great product that you should check out. But Clay's wife, my wife, they both like having non-lethal options and items to protect themselves and to have on their person and readily accessible. This is where Sabre comes in. The pepper sprays, pepper gels, a whole range of personal and home defense, non-lethal products. Yeah, I got a lot of lethal stuff. I got a lot of guns here too, but there's no reason not to have those non-lethal options so you can have force escalation. And for a lot of people out there, they prefer that non-lethal first response. So check out what Sabre has for you. Go to sabreradio.com, S-A-B-R-E radio.com. You'll save 15% there. Sabre, S-A-B-R-E radio.com. Or call 844-824-SAFE. That's 844-824-SAFE.
Keep up with the biggest political comeback in world history on the Team 47 podcast. Clay and Buck highlight Trump replays from the week. Sundays at noon Eastern. Find it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Mr. Secretary, appreciate you being with us. We know you were just in a marathon cabinet meeting as a member of the cabinet. A lot covered there. Wanted to just jump into what is in the big, beautiful bill that affects directly U.S. national energy policy. Like, what do we need to know about what's coming?
Actually, quite a bit. But let me start out with maybe the biggest thing is it's the ending of about $500 billion of subsidies that would be paid out in the next 10 years. So, roughly $50 billion a year. We've been paying these for many years. And the biggest component to them is to pay people to put wind and solar on our electricity grid and subsidies to help rich people buy EVs. And so the problem of these subsidies is they not only cost the taxpayers $500 billion, but at the end they make our electricity grids more expensive and less stable. So we have to pay twice. So I think reducing the pressure, the cost of these subsidies, and the pressure on the cost and stability of our grid is going to be a big win for Americans.
When you look at the price of gas, I think that's a big story that isn't being talked.
In the price of gasoline in affordability terms. So it's just tremendous. That's a significant expense that all Americans, all of us pay every week to get to our jobs, to go on vacations, to visit our grandmothers and travel with our kids. If you make gasoline prices expensive, you just shrink the Life Administration's record. We have gasoline 25 to 30 cents a gallon cheaper today than it was 12 months ago. And that's going through a period of major conflict in the Middle East, but major productive conflict in the Middle East, hopefully ending the 46 years of Iran as the troublemaker in the Middle East, and really the threat to global peace, probably the largest global threat to peace over the last 45 years.
We're speaking to the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Energy, Chris Wright. And Mr. Secretary, if you could lay out for us, what does a Make Energy Great Again, MEGA, mega, what does a Make Energy Great Again policy under Trump look like going forward? Does it include nuclear? Is it new technology applied to fossil fuels? Like what is the Trump administration trying to accomplish so that not only are we doing as much as we can with the technology we have and the resources we have in the past, but that we do new things, innovative things going forward?
Oh, great setting of that table. So I mentioned that getting rid of $500 billion to make energy expensive. There's also in the One Big Beautiful Bill just returning to rule of law and allowing oil, gas, and coal producers to produce again on federal lands across the country. This will lower baseline energy prices in the coming years and decades in front of us. I squeezed that one in there real quick. But there's also, I'm a free market guy, so I'm not a fan of subsidies. But we do have tax credits in there for a finite period of time for next generation nuclear and for geothermal. And for uprates, if we can get more power out of hydro, have it cheaper to build big reactors. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to add, it's exactly what you were going into, which is what does that look like? Because nuclear, unfortunately, became a boogeyman. What does it look like, and what percentage do you think of our power could come from nuclear in the years ahead, given the Trump administration's willingness and your willingness to
20% of electricity today. So after natural gas, which is by far and away the leader, nuclear is second. But yeah, I mean, that could, a couple decades from now, that could be 40 or 50% of our electricity from nuclear. We got to build a lot to do that, but this is America. We can build a lot. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC, has just made it so expensive, so slow, and so risky to develop nuclear power in the country. We basically stopped doing it for the last few decades. So we need regulatory reform at the NRC. We need regulatory reform from NEPA, so that it's just a check. Are we being smart about the environment? Not a weaponized thing. You could just have lawsuits and stop anything from being built. We need to have simplified permitting on federal lands. Department of Energy will be in charge of that. We will have next generation test reactors running 12 months from today at our Idaho National Lab facilities there. Like the technology's there, the private capital is there, the interest is there. We just need the government to get out of the way and let capitalism and free market forces bring us a very exciting few decades with rapid growth in nuclear energy.
We're talking to Energy Secretary Chris Wright. Buck just asked, and you are hearing a lot of talk about the need for nuclear power. Underscoring all of this, based on the people that I talk to, is there isn't enough discussion about all of the power and energy that's going to be necessary for AI. That the amount that this is going to demand, the amount that it's going to soak up is just off the charts. That, I imagine, is something you're spending a decent amount on as well. For AI, for the AI revolution to take place and for America to lead, what sort of energy do we need to create that isn't being created now? Is that accurate based on what you're seeing?
No, you're absolutely right. Let me give the numbers real quick. So here we are, 2025, 5 years from now, we're going to need probably at least another 100 gigawatts of generation. A gigawatt is like a big coal power plant, a big natural gas plant, a nuclear plant. Some nuclear plants are 2 or 3 gigawatts, but 100 gigawatts of additional power 5 years from now. And in the current plan, there is a plan to shut down 100 gigawatts of mostly coal plants over the next 5 years. If we did all that, we'd have to build 200 gigawatts of new power generation to meet that projected demand. And what's in the queue right now that's visible or applying for a permit or acquiring land of firm capacity? About 20 gigawatts. So a gaping hole, which is why this administration and my department are going to be very carefully scrutinizing. Does it make sense to shut down that coal power plant like the one they tried to shut down in Michigan? An over 1 gigawatt power plant, 15 years left of plant life, and for political reasons, we want to get rid of coal. We're going to shut that puppy down. I used emergency powers to keep it open. 2 days in that same Midwest grid, there was a blackout. Like, we've just got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. by closing existing plants, and we've got to make it much, much easier for American businesses to build new natural gas plants, to build new nuclear plants, to build new geothermal and next generation electricity generating capacity. Just wind and solar just is simply not an answer. It's really hot in D.C. today, but the wind is still no wind power at time of peak demand. In the winter, it's really cold at night, but we don't have any solar power. And when you're in a huge cold front, it's again a high pressure system, no wind. So we've just got to get smart about energy in the United States again, but it's business and private entrepreneurs that are going to drive this. We just need the government to be out of the way and a credible partner for permitting and any other infrastructure that needs to be built to support it. But I'm optimistic. This is America. We can build things again.
One more for you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for being with us. In terms of exports for particularly oil and natural gas, I know we've been doing very well, and America is really the world's the true fossil fuel superpower. We don't necessarily think of ourselves that way, but I think the numbers certainly bear that out. Is there going to be, would you expect an increase in that? And how do you see it affecting global demand?
Yes, there's going to be a huge increase in that. The United States is already by far the largest exporter of natural gas in the world, and we will double that in the next 5 years. And the 5 or 7 years after that, we could double it again. So America will just be the dominant supplier of natural gas around the world. That's 25% of global energy comes from natural gas. And it's the fastest growing source of energy on the planet. So super excited about where all this could go. And I've got to jump on to...
No, we like the optimism. Thanks for joining us right after cabinet meeting. Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright. Thank you so much, sir.
Love the show you guys run. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Can I just say, I love that the Secretary of Energy is a high energy guy. He's not low energy. He's high energy.
Running around there in the background. We'll break down some of that, continue to take your calls. And what we've got, Selena Zito, who is going to take us to Butler, Pennsylvania. It's almost the 1 year anniversary of Donald Trump nearly being assassinated, taking a bullet in the ear in Butler, Pennsylvania. She had one of the upfront views of that event. She's got a brand new book out about that day in particular, and we will discuss that with her at the bottom of this hour. In the meantime, decisions about healthcare coverage, which plan's right for you and your family, they don't come easily. Choices have gotten more limited, less appealing, and frankly, often very confusing. Something as important as health insurance, you want to feel good about the decisions you're making. Why settle for a government plan like the Affordable Care Act when there's a better option, one that puts you in control? There's a solution to finding good health care coverage called Ease for Everyone. It offers affordable health care for as low as $262 a month. You can keep your doctor, never pay a deductible, and access over 400 prescription drugs for free. Go online to the website, see what plan is right for you and your family. Ease for Everyone, developed by some very forward-thinking experts right here in Nashville. You'll be speaking with people that live in your world, can speak your language, answer your questions. Visit easeforeveryone.com/Clay and join today. That's easeforeveryone.com/Clay.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Mic drops that never sounded so good. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? WashableSofas.com has your back. Featuring the Anabay collection, the only designer sofa that's machine washable inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabrics. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Check out WashableSofas.com and get up to 60% off your Anabay sofa, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. Navy Federal can help you find and finance the right vehicle with ease. And this summer, you're in the driver's seat with savings. You can get a $250 bonus when you buy your next car through Navy Federal's car buying service, powered by TrueCar and financed with Navy Federal. With this tool, you can find the vehicle that's right for you as you search through inventory and compare models. And you could get an amazing rate when you finance with Navy Federal. Navy Federal strives to support all active duty, veterans, and their families to achieve their personal and financial goals. And this partnership with TrueCar is one of the many tools Navy Federal uses to help its members. Make your plan with Navy Federal and TrueCar today. Navy Federal Credit Union. To qualify for the $250 bonus, car purchase and financing must be completed by September 2nd, 2025. Terms and conditions apply and are available at NavyFederal.org/TrueCar. Credit and collateral subject to approval. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA.
Small business owners, stay connected anytime, anywhere. Wouldn't it be great to pick up a walkie-talkie, push a button, and instantly talk to your team no matter where they are? With Rapid Radios, you get nationwide LTE coverage connecting up to 200 units on a single feed with 100% private, secure communication. Imagine being able to connect with a team that big as they're on the go.
There's no setup, no contracts ever, and no hassle. Just instant push-to-talk simplicity combined with today's technology. We got our Rapid Radios, took them out of the box, turned them on, and started talking. That's it. Whether you're managing an event staff, security team, or a fleet of delivery drivers, Rapid Radios is the ultimate communication solution.
For a limited time, visit rapidradios.com to save up to 60%. Plus, get free UPS shipping from Michigan. Use code RADIO for an extra 5% off. Don't wait. Order today at rapidradios.com. Satisfaction guaranteed or 100% of your money back. Go to rapidradios.com, code RADIO, and get an extra 5% off.
The last thing anyone wants is to leave behind confusion, stress, or worse, family conflict. That's why estate planning isn't just for the wealthy. It's for families like mine, and probably like yours. With Trust and Will, I created my estate plan in minutes, from naming guardians for my kids to putting our house in a trust to avoid probate. Fast, affordable, and way easier than I thought. Every plan is designed by estate planning attorneys and customized for your state. Plans start at just $199 and include essentials like healthcare directives and power of attorney. With Trust and Will's bank-level security and built-in privacy protections, your personal information and your wishes stay safe. Whether you're newly married, raising kids, caring for aging parents, or just want peace of mind, Trust and Will makes it easy to protect what matters most. Go to trustandwill.com, use code RADIO at checkout, and save 20% on your personalized plan. Because there's no better time to protect the people you love. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Know what's underrated? Winning at the checkout line. With the Verizon Visa card, you win by getting 4% in rewards on things you buy all the time, including grocery store purchases, gas, and dining out. As a cardholder, you can even use those earned rewards toward your Verizon bill or a new smartwatch. Apply now at verizon.com/Verizon Visa card. Application required, subject to credit approval. Must be a Verizon mobile account owner or manager or Fios account owner. See verizon.com/Verizon Visa card for terms and restrictions. The Verizon Visa Signature Card is issued by Synchrony Bank pursuant to a license from Visa USA Inc.
Welcome back in, Clay Travis Buck Sexton Show. All right, we'll play some of your reactions. Again, I have brilliantly explained why the Epstein case is really, frankly, based on all the logic about a guy who got rich by being able to provide young, attractive women to people who were also rich. And that may well have led to relationships with intelligence agencies. And so far, that does not seem to have quelled the crazy brigade. So the crazy brigade is welcome to call in, 800-282-2882, and argue that the entire government has conspired to protect Jeffrey Epstein. But I did want to say something incredibly positive. Did you see this story, Buck? You no longer have to take your shoes off to go through a TSA line. Now, I only got to see it. I only got TSA pre-check, like whatever. Producer Allie, and you made me do it because I had never done it.
We couldn't believe you didn't have pre-check. That was a true shocker.
It is true. I had not done it. My last book came out. They were like, "You need to do it." It is better. I'll be honest with you. Some airports, the pre-check line is now longer than the regular line. When I flew back from Florida recently, every time I go into my Florida airport, the line is longer to go through pre-check than it is to go through standard. And that sometimes happens at lots of different airports out there across the country. But would you agree with me that it was almost universally hated that you had to take your shoes off? And it was one of the things that any government employee would make you do, that regardless of how you vote, everybody was like, this is absurd and ridiculous.
Yeah, it was degrading and it felt preposterous. And the whole thing to me was, look, a lot of the TSA stuff is theater, and there was a lot of TSA, a lot of things that TSA have done and we're doing reminds me of the way that COVID was handled on some level. Like, we're just going to do things so that people think that we're doing things. But the people I always felt bad for weren't just the I have to remove my shoes people, Clay. It was the people who weren't wearing socks. That's just,
I was often in that camp.
That just feels icky. You know, you have to kick off your Birkenstocks with no socks, and you got to walk on those gross airport floors. When do you think the last time was the TSA line floor was mopped up? I think it's been a while.
And look, this is how you beat viruses. You got to expose yourself to the grit and grime. This is why you bare feet people. I think we live longer because we are more attuned with like fighting off viruses, because we just walk around with bare feet and we're exposing ourselves all the time. In all seriousness, this is one of the stories they say about why allergies have gotten so bad. Have you read some of these theories? That the reason why kids today are allergic to so much more, every generation is allergic to more, is actually because we live in such sterile, clean environments that kids today are not coming into contact with the same amount of antigens-ish, for lack of a better term, that they would have before. And so that's one reason, for instance,
pathogens.
like
Pathogens, right?
Antigens, pathogens.
I don't know. Maybe it's antigens.
Are they just two different types of the same thing? I'm not the science on this.
No, you're right. Antigen, a toxic or other foreign substance which induces an immune response. You're right. Antigen, not pathogen. Sorry. You keep going.
Well, now you got me confused because I'm like, what's the difference between an antigen and a pathogen? But I do think, like every kid, every generation of kids has gotten way more allergic to peanuts, for instance, right? Like they don't even have peanuts on airplanes now.
Yeah, okay, so a pathogen is a disease-causing organism, bacteria, virus, fungus. An antigen is just a thing that triggers an immune response. So antigen is actually the more proper. There you go, Mr. Clay.
There you go.
Tip our hat to you, sir.
And everybody just got better at SAT vocab out there who's out for school for the summer. You should be able to get that correct now. But, you used to be in like 1980, nobody had by and large peanut allergies. And now we sit here in 2025, 45 years later, and they can't even pass out peanuts on airplanes anymore because there might be an allergy there. How does that happen? Well, I think it's frankly because we're not exposing kids to these antigens. But on the larger context here, I think TSA is, and I know a lot of you are TSA agents because I meet a lot of TSA agents going in and out of airports that listen to the show and or consume the content we go through to get on airplanes. And taking off your shoes and taking your laptop out of your bag and things like that. And now you have to have the real ID to fly. None of it feels to me like it's making us very much safer. And I think many people have always seen it. I know. I remember the shoe bomber, whatever his name was, Richard Reed.
Richard Reed.
Back in the day, tried to light his shoes on fire on a flight, I think, from Europe to the United States, if I remember correctly. And, but I just feel like all of that kind of conspired to make people trust the larger security apparatus less instead of more. And the data actually reflects people get through with weapons all the time. You know, when they do the tests on, hey, like I've got an actual gun, which you would think like, hey, maybe your nail clippers we don't need to worry about so much, but an actual gun, let's try to stop that from happening. They still get through at an actually scary amount of time, even with existing TSA.
Yes, this is true.
So I don't know what the long-range solution is here long-term, but I do feel like this is an improvement. And on a positive level, I think it will probably cut lines by a quarter or a third because everything will just be way more efficient without having to make people take their shoes off and walk through and wait for it and everything else.
Not to interrupt our shoe security discussion, but we will have now, it's been confirmed by his team, the Energy Secretary will join us at 2:00 because he just got out of the rather lengthy Trump cabinet meeting, which covered a lot of ground, which we're bringing you the highlights of it. I think we're doing a great service by bringing you the highlights because otherwise you have to spend most of your day listening to the entirety of the Trump cabinet meeting. So we will have the Energy Secretary, which will be an exciting discussion. And you don't have to take your shoes off anymore now in the normal line. And yes, it is true, Clay, that sometimes the TSA pre-line is in fact worse than the just I'm a person who wants to fly line. So you gotta pick your line. Here in Miami, which I will say is one of the worst airports in America for any city, I think it's probably a top 5 worst airport. It's one of the few things about Miami that I really it's just a big loss, is the airport here. And there's many different
Your airport
gates.
is a disaster.
It's a disaster. It's a terrible airport. And the city of Miami needs to figure out.
And let me say this too. Fort Lauderdale, better, I think, in terms of able to get in and out. Also an awful airport.
Palm Beach Airport is the one you want to go to if you're looking for a nice airport around here. You know, there's like a string quartet playing when you land. There's butlers named Jeeves who are handing out little nibbles of caviar. Very civilized in the Palm Beach Airport. But Miami, you know, you can get some Cuban coffee, but the airport itself is not good.
Miami, it seems like it was designed, the airport, to make you have to walk the longest possible distance
at all times. Yes, and it has the worst. It has the worst food, the worst design. It looks like it, is a 1970s time warp. So yeah, if you have a good airport, lucky. I saw actually a ranking of the best airports in the country.
I saw this. The Washington Post ranked them. Do you have an airport you fly into and you're like, man, this is now some airports are tiny. And I don't count those. Like, I flew in and out of Panama City
terminal,
Beach.
I will say, is pretty impressive now. You can't throw any shade at it.
LaGuardia used to be like a Greyhound bus terminal. I hated going there. It's really nice now. Nashville has done a good job on, I think, redoing much of theirs.
Yeah, very civilized. You guys have a good airport.
Yeah, it's a pretty good airport. I actually think National Airport is the best
very nice.
In D.C., in terms of proximity to being able to get in and out of the city. I actually think National is one of the best. This would be, I feel like I've been to almost every major airport at some point in time. And I'll tell you, Salt Lake City has a great airport. I'm trying to think of the other ones that I've been to recently now some cities have multiple airports, so that can get a little bit complicated. Denver's airport's in the middle of nowhere. It's actually a very nice airport when you actually get there. Dulles is generally,
I see, O'Hare, I know, gets a lot of hate. I know O'Hare gets a ton of hate.
Dulles, if they make you get on like a people mover to get to the terminals, like Dulles, you have to get on the people mover. Orlando, not very well designed. You have to get on the people movers. Vegas, a lot of time, Vegas is ugly. Not surprising, but pretty depressing airport.
I think
for Las
Portland
Vegas.
according to the Post, had a very nice airport. We got Trump weighing in here on, you see that? That's a hard turn back into the news. That's how we roll here. We got Trump weighing in on the Putin situation from Portland to Putin. We cover all the ground here. This is cut 32. You can tell Trump is getting very frustrated with the leader of Russia. Listen to this one. Play it.
That was a war that should have never happened, and a lot of people are dying, and it should end. And I don't know, we get a lot of bull thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
Do you want to sanction him? Lindsey Graham has a sanctions bill on Russia. Do you want him to move
I'm looking at it, yeah. No, I'm looking. The Senate is passing and passed a very, very tough sanctions bill. Yeah, I'm looking at it.
And you sign that?
It's an optional bill. It's totally at my option. They passed it totally at my option and to terminate totally at my option. And I'm looking at it very strongly.
The plan so far with Russia to stop this bloodshed in Ukraine, Clay, has not worked. So Trump is now looking at the pressure points that he can use and the alternatives to get Putin to stop. But it's been going in the other direction.
Have they given up on the Trump as a Russian asset, or is this still something they say on the left now?
You don't hear it as much. Because
he's
probably
been
still
pretty
here.
critical of Putin in the first 6 months. And now he's like, the readout on Zelensky and the resources we're giving is that Trump's relationship with Zelensky is on a better ground than his relationship with Putin. Remember, it was only in February where we had the blow up in the Oval Office and everybody was convinced, oh, this is Manchurian candidate Trump. I can't keep up with who exactly Trump is an asset of. So I'm curious what the latest is on left wing swamp fever dreams.
We'll bring you more of this here momentarily. And then also we got the energy secretary coming up here at the top, talk about how we're going to be, I assume there's going to be a lot of baby drill going on. And that's a good thing. We want those fossil fuels. We want the actual, and we want nuclear. We want some things that actually work. A little less focus on windmills and, the ridiculousness of the Green New Deal. The preborn network of clinics are doing amazing work every day. You know, I talk to you about it because it's important. And so many of you are ardent members of the pro-life community, and you're thinking, well, what can I do? I live my principles and I vote for pro-life candidates, but there's something else you can do, and it's support people who are on the front line saving babies right now. Abortion's still legal in so many places, including up to 9 months of pregnancy. It's horrible. And we can save babies right now. That's what Preborn is doing. And they bring mothers into their clinics. They give them a free ultrasound and they say, hey, look, this is the baby that's inside you. Now let's talk about this. We'll support you. We'll help you. Consider life for this baby. Preborn does this with just a $28 expense that covers that ultrasound. And they're putting their clinics in communities where abortion rates are highest nationwide so they can have that frontline access to moms in crisis and make sure that they know life is the option for them and life is the future. To donate securely to Preborn, dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, say baby, or visit preborn.com/buck, preborn.com/BUCK. Sponsored by Preborn.
News you can count on and some laughs too. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Know what's underrated? Winning at the checkout line. With the Verizon Visa card, you win by getting 4% in rewards on things you buy all the time, including grocery store purchases, gas, and dining out. As a cardholder, you can even use those earned rewards toward your Verizon bill or a new smartwatch. Apply now at Verizon.com/Verizon Visa Card. Application required, subject to credit approval. Must be a Verizon mobile account owner or manager or Fios account owner. See Verizon.com/Verizon Visa Card for terms and restrictions. The Verizon Visa Signature Card is issued by Synchrony Bank pursuant to a license from Visa USA Inc.
I'm Rodney Williams.
And I'm Travis Holloway. Welcome to the Wealth Break Podcast, a real conversation about finance.
Let's be honest. Building wealth doesn't look the same for everyone.
I feel like sometimes being broke is a cycle and that we might have to revisit that.
And we're not stopping at success stories.
What happens when it doesn't go right? How do you cope with it?
Because wealth isn't just about money. It's about creating a life where you thrive and help others do the same.
Listen to the Wealth Break Podcast on the iHeartRadio app.
If you're with Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, you're overpaying for wireless, period. You're paying a massive premium for what you think is superior 5G service. Pure Talk, my wireless company, uses the same 5G network on the same 5G towers, but they don't charge you for any of the garbage.
Get unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Visit puretalk.com/Clay, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Switch to Pure Talk today.
Oral health goes beyond just aesthetics. It's deeply connected to your general health and well-being. That's why preventing oral health problems before they start is so important. When you use the Colgate Total Active Prevention System, you're not just helping to prevent oral health problems like cavities and gingivitis. You're laying the groundwork for overall wellness. Colgate Total's 3-product routine includes a reformulated toothpaste, an innovative toothbrush, and a refreshing antibacterial mouthwash that all support a healthy mouth. In fact, the 3 products were designed to work together to be 15 times more effective at reducing bacteria buildup in 6 weeks, starting from week 1, compared to a non-antibacterial fluoride toothpaste and flat trim toothbrush. Take control of your oral health and get the Colgate Total Active Prevention System today so you can be dentist ready. Visit shop.colgate.com/total.
I'm Christiana Manpour, and I've been on the front lines and interviewing world leaders for more than 30 years.
And I'm Jamie Rubin, a former advisor to both Presidents Clinton and Biden.
We were married for 20 years.
And divorced for 7.
Now we've joined forces on the X-Files to make sense of how we ended up with no world order. Listen to Christiana Manpour Presents The X-Files on the iHeart Radio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast.